Alright, so The Outer Worlds is a game that came out back in 2019 before the world went to ruin. And since then, it's gotten some very mixed reviews among both gamers and critics. But if you have ever played, heard, or know what the Fallout games are, it's basically like that except with space travel and less story. Shout out to Starfield. Oh my god! But today I got the Platinum Trophy on The Outer Worlds. This is also a part of a giant challenge I have been doing, trying to platinum over 100 games suggested by viewers of the community before the channel hits 850,000 subscribers. And it's safe to say, we're cooked. So make sure to drop a like and subscribe. But getting the platinum today is going to be split into 3 stages. Stage 1 being to just beat the story while going after missable endings, outcomes, and a few choices that have to be made and reversed throughout. Stage 2 is going to be a cleanup of every other trophy in the game, which mostly consists of just combat and various side quest trophies. And finally, stage 3 is going to be the Supernova playthrough, which is the hardest difficulty in the game. I did cut out one stage from the trophy guide on PSN profiles because I feel as if it's irrelevant and not needed at all. But without further ado, let's begin stage 1, the main story. So The Outer Worlds, like I've said, is very similar to the Fallout games, and in the intro of the game you see just how much with the fact that our characters get chosen in the exact way with differing stats, looks, and then we come out of the vault, if you will, to be played as. And you are essentially the chosen one for today, as the game calls it, but a man named Phineas pulled us out of the cryo sleep, and he is the sort of puppet master behind everything inside of the game, giving us missions, directions, and lore drops all the time. But as we watched in the intro cutscene, his ship and us were getting attacked by enemies, and it was very dire, which is why he threw us in an escape pod as a last-ditch effort, and we were off to begin the game on the very first planet. Once landing, we were supposed to meet a man named Hawthorne, who is a captain of his own ship, and sadly we landed right on top of him. Rest in peace, brother. But I do appreciate the trophy you've given me, how kind. The game then had us trying to reach Hawthorne's ship so we can get off this planet because we don't necessarily want to be here or need to be here. It's one of those throwaway planets, if you will. On the way to get to Hawthorne's ship, we ran into a random dude in a cave who was quote-unquote dying, even though he looks very good in health. I call cap. There was then a bunch of enemies outside, and we also had to take them out on the way to get to our objective. Once getting inside his ship, we got welcomed by the AI, which was programmed to only answer to Hawthorne. And we basically just told it that we are him, and it believed us. I will never fear artificial intelligence at this rate. It's a lot more like manufactured idiocracy. But the AI did tell us what we needed to fix on the ship, and it was simply just a power regulator for the engine. Now to get to that, we then had to go do numerous, and I mean numerous, side quests slash main quest in the nearby town called Edgewater, because they have one and know where it is. However, they won't just give it to us, of course. And I ended up chatting with their leader named Reed, who asked us to go turn back on the power to the city and also gave us our first companion of the game named Pavardi, which was also a trophy. And if you're wondering what a companion is, it's literally just a person who follows you around like a dog and helps you eliminate the masses. Shout out to the Fallout 4 dog. Nobody will ever replace you, buddy. That's what I'm saying. But we had to redirect power from the geothermal power plant nearby to Edgewater, which is the big city on this planet, and we did that because it's needed for future trophies and outcomes. But since we did, the power regulator was no longer able to be stolen from Edgewater, so we instead had to go weasel our way in with some rebels, if you will, or outcasts, probably a better term, and they were holed up in the botanical gardens, which also had a power regulator there. And to get them to give it to me, I also had to convince all of them to go live in Edgewater instead of out in the wild like they currently are, which was a bit of a difficult task, but eventually the stubbornness wore off and they agreed to go, resulting in me getting the power regulator finally. I then took it back to the ship and inserted it into that glorious hole, with the ship being fully functional again and a trophy popping because of that. So we were then off to the skies and stars, if you want to be more accurate. The next location we went to was a ship port called Groundbreaker, and this is where the beginning grind kind of began, because the main quest here had us after some very valuable items needed for the ship and story, but I had almost 0 credits to buy them, so I just ran around doing various side things for money, XP, and all that good stuff. I did get a trophy for over an hour as well, and I almost cried. Shout out to my 11 trophies per day stat. Get on my level, kid. But once I finally did, it was just from the main story like you would expect, and it was just from buying the items I needed to for us to be able to travel further into space, landing on a very important planet in a city called Byzantium, a completely controlled city by some evil forces yet to be uncovered. I then got my first missable trophy of the day called the Cartographer, and it's missable because you must go down the path of turning in Phineas, who is that guy that basically made us, into the board, which is the force that controls everything. And I did that, obviously, because I was making sure to get all the missables on this run. But if you're wondering what dealt with meant, well, we killed the poor lady, but it was a trophy, so yes. And my next trophy was then just another story one from going to a new place, this time one called Stellar Bay, where numerous trophies occur. And on the same planet where Stellar Bay is, there was a very extensive wildlife region and map overall. It's just much bigger than what we have seen so far. Within the vast wild, there's also these giant bugs that look straight out of Helldivers 2, so that's fun. But some of them are occasionally rated as a mega type enemy, and this is essentially just the strongest version of them. And after killing a mega enemy for the first time, I also got a trophy as well as pride inserted into my soul. But the big objective on this planet we are on right now was to climb up a mountain of sorts and activate an essential radio frequency. But due to game runtime, they didn't just give us a straight up path. Oh no, it was actually the exact opposite of straight. A lot like anyone named Ethan or Lindsay. However, I grabbed what I needed and then reported back to this guy named Sanjar, who looks like an aged and sadder Vivek Ramazway. But once I gave him the UDL data, as they called it, I got a trophy called Pirate Radio, which is again just story. However, it is sadly the last story trophy for now that isn't missable, because I then went and scuffed up some missable trophies right after. This is the first real, or at least hard instance where you have to do everything right or else you miss an ending. Both Monarch Abides and Peace in Our Time are outcomes to a war that is beginning on the planet. What caused this, you might ask? Well, a giant ship crashing into the planet and ensuing chaos. Now, there was a key step in getting the Peace trophy here, which is the real challenging one that I missed. So I kind of just messed around not knowing this, and I got a few other random trophies not relating to the story, so let's go through those. First, I got a trophy from acquiring 3 flaws. Occasionally, some dude from the schizophrenia in our minds pops up and offers us a deal. We get a perk point, and he punishes us with a flaw or debuff. And I'm not gonna lie, I said yes every single time, but once I did it for the 3rd time, you get the trophy. I then sold over 10,000 credits worth of items at vendors, which is very easy to do in this game, for another trophy. And for the past few hours of gameplay, I've been grinding a kill trophy from using Companion's finishing moves. And I ended up getting my 50th one right here for that trophy pop finally. I then realized at this point that it was far too late for me to get the Peace trophy in this war, so I did the other one, which is the bad version and very easy to get. Monarch Abides, and it quite literally has you just direct war onto the Iconolist, which are the other faction on this planet aside from the city dwellers. And you simply just fight them and take everyone out at a church. How sacrilegious. And here's that trophy. But that's the bad outcome, as I've said, and for the sake of this playthrough needing to keep people alive and in good faith for the majority of trophies, we're gonna go get the Peace outcome now and then move on. Getting the trophy Peace in Our Time required a few key moments. First of all, you had to side with Zora Blackwood, the alt leader of the Iconolists, on any mission she offered us. And this is because she is the only respected person of the colony, and also the only one that the other dude agreed to meet with for a peace deal. You then had to also take out the other leader of the Iconolists, since he is essentially a waste of space, and after that's done with, Zora takes the lead and goes to meet Sanjar. They had a big old argument which involved your boy stepping in here and there, but overall it turned out good and peace was settled. I then got a trophy from that, as you would expect. And I also got another one from having 3 factions of the game with 75% or higher positive respect. Shout out to Mr. Nice Guy. There was then a big storyline that led us to sneak into the board leader, or the chairman's, private dwellings and access a computer that exposed him, basically just mocking how much of a failure the colony is. And it also exposed a lot of corruption that is going on, overall just bad things. But once we watched all of that and knew the truth, we found out that Phineas, the guy who let us free, is actually kind of the good guy, and I got a trophy from the story. I also did my first companion quest after, because it's a super simple and easy trophy to get from just finishing one companion quest. Next, I reached the second major missable moment. It's with 2 trophies again like previously, Mightier Than the Sword and Ludwig Was Right, except this time it's a hell of a lot easier than the previous 2, requiring just 1 change. Simply save before the mission ends with you sending a signal. And then for the Mightier Than the Sword one, which is the easy one, you just send the signal and the trophy pops. But for the other one, you had to travel back to Edgewater and just pop Reed in the head. Then you send the signal, which destroyed Edgewater for good, hence the bad ending. And we are now kind of reaching the ending of this game's story. The Outer Worlds has a shockingly fast story, and not much really happens, to be honest. You can also beat it in less than 20 minutes, which is insanity. But there's a mission where we had to take control of a giant ship called the Hope and skip it across the galaxy. However, you can't get a missable trophy from trying to skip it yourself, which we have no idea how to do, hence the dumb icon telling us do not do this. But we did anyways, and a cutscene then plays with us getting sent directly into the sun. And the trophy pops with a game over screen sending us back to the main menu. How nice. And after I rolled back the save, I actually didn't go back to the main story mission and do what was supposed to happen. I instead loaded up a side quest where I had to cosplay as a movie star. And from my understanding, you can just pick any dialogue options and it doesn't really matter because the quest ends as fast as it started, like my last 4 relationships with women, but I got a trophy anyways. I also did a side quest for some dentist dude who invented diet toothpaste, and I'm honestly not sure how that worked considering you're not supposed to eat toothpaste, but go off, I guess. And he had us track down his work and files, then bring it back to him and another trophy popped. I also got hired as a hitman for the Sunlight group of rebels, as you could say, and their final target was a scientist lady who was genuinely trying to help out. But my mission was to kill her, and I had to resort to asking what my companions thought. They made claim that she was innocent, so I didn't kill her. And then we got fired from her job. This is why you never trust a coworker, but it still did give us a trophy from the mission, so who cares? And next, I got a random combat trophy from 100 kills with plasma damage, which I've been using mostly throughout this game because I had a super good gun with it on. And I also went around and recruited all of the companions in the game because it was getting lonely. It's almost Valentine's Day. Anyways, the next trophy I got was from using dialogue options 30 times in conversation, which is just when a little option like persuade, lie, or something else is next to a conversation response. I also brought a skill up to 100 in my skill tree for another trophy after that. And finally, I returned back to the main story, which I left almost as abruptly as your father left your whole family when you were a child. I'm so sorry. But I successfully skipped the Hope ship this time, and it didn't go into the sun, thankfully. So we lived to see another trophy pop. And that was in fact the second to last mission of the game. So I began the final one after doing my... doing one last save, and we went to Tartarus, which is where the finale takes place, and I got yet again another story trophy. But since we've been so kind to different factions throughout this game, a ton of them came to assist us in the battle here on Tartarus. The entire mission was kind of just us running around the place trying to get higher and higher within it to reach the top while enemies were battling at us like crazy. And I actually got 2 trophies during the gameplay. The first was from killing an enemy with 5 damage types, which I did during this boss fight against Sophia's mech, and I have no clue how, but I did apparently. I then reached level 30 before quite literally the ending of the game. The ending, by the way, was very lackluster and had a slideshow presentation as wrap-up. I think I've actually seen more effort go into a divorce in this game's ending, which is just a crazy thing to say. But it was still a trophy, and that ended off stage 1 of the game, by the way. Stage 2 then began, and like I said, this is the cleanup stage, which is actually very fast and not too overly complex to do. There is a few grindy combat trophies, but there's a method that I missed which would have made those go by so much faster, and I'm kind of angry. But the first trophy I did was from, and I quote, simultaneously equipping Spacer's Choice brand clothing, headgear, and 4 weapons. Now this is actually super easy to do since you can buy all of those from vendors and already have some, to be honest. I was then in the middle of a side quest for a trophy requiring monster loot from various monsters, and during that grinding of killing monsters, I got a trophy from instead killing 20 enemies that were infected by spreading N-rays. An N-ray, you might be asking, is just another type of effect on a gun, by the way. During this same time, I was also grinding groin shots with my gun, and I was a little unsure of how this tracked or what really counted, but from my personal experience, you know, being a dude, you can tell a groin shot is effective when the enemy cripples over as if his midsection has been destroyed, because it basically has been. And the side quest I've been doing this entire time was all for some fashion bitch who needed absurd materials for her next outfit. And I swear she was trying to outdo Jaden Smith with this damn thing, because the lady ended up getting dropped by the local police force for what she was cooking. But I snuck into her office after she died and stole this shirt I needed for a trophy from being absolutely dripped out. I then tinkered or put a mod on 30 guns total throughout the game for another trophy. And after that, I then did a trophy from using 3 different excuses when a dialogue was wearing off in a restricted area. This game has a feature called the Shroud Disguise, which gives you limited time to be in a restricted zone before it starts to slip, and nearby enemies will periodically question you. After giving a BS reason 3 times, though, you get this trophy. I then finally got given a quest for this dude named Felix on my ship, who was one of the most annoying companions in the game. But once I completed his dumb quest, it gave me a trophy for doing every companion's quest in the game total. And during the past hour or so, I was also farming kills with the Toss Ball Bat, which is a type of weapon in the game, for another trophy. And I then ate every type of food and drink for another right after. However, I then chased down a bit more challenging trophy for making an enemy have 4 scientific effects at the same time. A scientific effect is caused from one of the 5 scientific guns throughout the game. First, you have to find them all, which really isn't that hard, and there's video guides on finding them if you need it. But actually getting 4 status effects at once is hard as a bitch to do. But a very good method is to give 2 companions scientific guns and then just have everyone spam attacks on a strong enemy. If you're lucky, all 4 will stay at the same time and this trophy will pop. I then went to some dude in a bed and critical hit his head with a scientific weapon to get another trophy from doing that exact thing. All that remained now in this stage was primarily just grindy trophies, like getting 30 kills on auto mechanicals with shock damage, which is just robots, by the way. And then I had to farm 50 stealth kills. And this is also when I would finally find the best farming spot for literally any kill trophy. There is a mission called Slaughterhouse Chive or some BS, and it has about 10 pigs in the slaughterhouse that you can just spam checkpoint reset on over and over and over, and just kill with any weapon, any method, and it counts for trophies. But I only abused it with the stealth kills because I'm an idiot. I then spam medicine over and over until using it 300 times for another trophy pop, which was stupid. My final trophy was then from reaching a negative 75% rating with at least 3 factions. And this is my personal favorite trophy because it requires you to just simply go around and kill any citizen you see in various cities of the game. God, how I hated those people so much. So now it's time for stage 3, the Supernova difficulty playthrough. And you can play it naturally like a normal playthrough, but that would take forever to do. So instead of doing that, I followed the speedrun guide on how to do it in in under 20 minutes without killing anyone. Now, I did not do this in under 20 minutes, but I did do it in under an hour. So huge shout out to this guy for making the speedrun. It's actually quite impressive how people come up with things like this and take a full-length game down to 20 minutes without cheating or any glitches. But overall, the speedrun really isn't that hard. I did fail or get lost a few times, which made me reset, but I kept up fairly well with the video. And once I reached the ending, I got all the trophies. It's literally that simple. This feels like a joke almost. But yeah, here's the platinum. I feel kind of dirty. Anyways, that was the Outer Worlds Platinum Trophy experience. Overall, I think the game is okay. I don't necessarily love it, but the combat was pretty fun. The story was just kind of dead. Rating it out of 10, I'll give this game a 4.35798210749.782. Someone comment what that rating was. I would love to see it.